Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Crochet for Baby. Thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to knit this little hat using Preemie Bloom chunky yarn. You can make it for boys and girls. Now this little hat is for babies from 0 to 6 months, but you can also make it bigger up to 24 months. Like this little hat here. Just continue watching and I'm going to let you know exactly what you need to do in order for you to make it bigger. Okay, so let's get started and thank you for watching. Okay, so to make your little hat slightly bigger for a baby between 6 and 12 months, what you need to do is you need to cast on a total of 60 stitches using 4mm knitting needles. Now you're going to knit 5 rows of knit 1, purl 1 for the brim, and then you're going to continue and knit each one of the stitches for about 22 rows. Then you're going to start to reduce. You're going to place your stitch markers every 12th stitch and you're going to have 5 reductions for every row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to continue until you have a couple of stitches here left at the top, and then you're going to close your hat. Now that's for 6 to 12 months. If you want to make it for 12 to 24 months, what you need to do is same thing. You're going to cast on 60 stitches, but you're going to use 4.5mm knitting needles. And same thing, you're going to work 5 rows of knit 1, purl 1, and then continue for 22 rows for this part here, and then start to reduce in the same way. So really the only difference between the 6 to 12 months and the 12 to 24 months is the size of the needles. So for 6 to 12 months, you're going to use 4mm knitting needles, cast on 60. For 12 to 24 months, you're going to use 4.5mm knitting needles, cast on 60 stitches, and then work 5 rows of knit 1, purl 1, and then work 22 rows, and then start to reduce. Okay, so that's all you would need to do to make your hat bigger. Now, the instructions you're going to follow in the same way here. The only difference is the number of stitches that you cast on and the number of rows that you're going to do here. The reductions it's about the same because we reduce every 12th stitch. Now this one only has 4 reductions, whereas the 2 sizes that I just mentioned have 5. That would be the only difference. So if you have any questions or you need any more clarifications, just comment below and let me know and I'll try to help you out. Okay, so let's get started and thank you for watching. Okay, to begin, I'll be using these size 7 or 4.5mm circular knitting needles. These are 40-inch. Now, we're going to make this hat in the round using the magic loop. And the yarn that I'm going to use today is called Preemie Bloom Chunky. This is a self-striping floral print yarn. Now, this is a bulky number 5 yarn, and the color on this, I believe, is hydrangea. Let me see if it has a name. Nope, it's dahlia. So we'll see what design we get out of this yarn. Okay, so to begin, I have 48 stitches here that I have cast on. You can use any method to cast on your stitches. I'll leave a link down here in the information box on how you can cast on your stitches using the long tail cast on. It's at the beginning of a video that I did of a baby hat. So let's begin. Like I said, I have 48 stitches, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to divide our stitches. So I like to do this. So I'm just going to divide them like this. You don't have to be precise. I'm just going to eyeball it here and I'm going to pull my wire like this and then push my stitches to the front of the needles. Now, always make sure that your yarn is on top of this needle here in the back. Now we're going to push this needle and we're going to pull this one. Make sure that you leave a loop here. That's why it's called the magic loop technique, because we're going to work this in the round and we're always going to have a loop there so that we're able to work this hat in the round using these longer needles. Now you can also use double pointed needles to work this part here in the round. Okay, so here to begin, we're going to join to the first stitch. So just knit the first stitch. Now for the brim, I'm going to knit 1 and then purl the next. So purl the next, knit the next, and then purl. That's all I'm going to do for this first row. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So I'm just going to fast forward to the last stitch here on this needle, this one, so that I can show you how you're going to transition to the other needle. So knit 1, purl 1, knit one, purl one. Okay, I'm at the end. Now this last stitch on this needle, I'm going to purl. So remember what your last stitch is. Depending on how you divided your stitches, your stitch may be a knit. So the important thing is just remember what this stitch is, because you're going to continue with the next stitch once we switch here. So let go of your needle, turn this like this, push your needle, and remember that this yarn is always on top of this needle here in the back. So now pull the needle from the back and then continue. Now this stitch here was a purl for me, so now I'm going to knit the next stitch and then purl, knit and purl. This is all I'm going to do to the end of this first row, so continue and I'll meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end. My last stitch has to be a purl. That's why we have an even number of stitches here, so that way your last stitch is a purl, because we started with a knit. Now we're going to let go of this needle, turn this like this, push your cable, and now pull the needle from the back, and we're going to start the second row. Now, if you like, you can put a stitch marker here and pull this stitch here so that this closes. Now, for the second row, we're going to repeat the same thing. We're going to start with the knit stitch and then a purl. The purl stitch, you insert your needle through the back and purl like this. So knit, purl. Now, we're going to do this for about 5 rows. If you want to make your brim bigger or wider, you can. I'm just going to do 5 rows and we'll see how that looks. This is going to be a baby hat, so I don't want the brim to be too wide. So continue like this, like I said, for about 4 or 5 rows. Just continue watching and you'll see exactly how many rows I'm going to do. So I'll meet you at the end of that row. Okay, I did a total of 5 rows. It's measuring, let's see, it's about 3 centimeters, which is about 1.25 inches. If you want to make it wider, you can just make more rows. I'm just going to leave it like this. So I did a total of 5 rows. Now, from here on, we're just going to knit every one of these stitches. I'm going to make this hat nice and easy, so we're just going to knit each one of these stitches all the way to the end. So knit the first stitch, knit the next stitch through the center, knit, knit through the center, knit, and I'm going to do this all the way to the end. Now this part here is easy. All you're going to do is knit each one of the stitches all the way to the last stitch. So continue and I'll meet you at the end of this first row. Okay, I'm here at the end of this first row. We're going to start counting rows. So we did 5 rows for the brim, and I'm going to put this stitch marker here to mark the first row to this pattern. So the pattern is just knit each one of the stitches. So there it is. Now from here on, this is all we're going to do. We're going to knit each one of the stitches all around like this. I've been told that this yarn is best worked in the round using the knit stitch, so we'll see what pattern we get once we get a little bit further. So all you're going to do is just knit each one of the stitches in the same way that we just did the last row. Now from here on, I'm not exactly sure how many rows I'm going to do before we start to reduce. So continue watching and you'll see exactly how many rows I'm going to do. That's why I put the stitch marker here to mark the first row, and then I'll be able to tell you exactly how many rows. So continue and I'll meet you at the end of that row. Okay, I did a total of 20 rows. So from here up to the last row that I did, it's 20 rows plus the 5 rows that we did here for the brim. And it's measuring from the last row down to the bottom of the brim. It's about 11 centimeters, which is almost 4.5 inches. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start shaping the crown. So here I have placed my stitch markers every 12th stitch. So from here, this is the first stitch up to the stitch here where I have the stitch marker right there. This is 12 stitches, then 12, 12, and then 12. So you should have 3 stitch markers. I've only added 3 because here at the end I'm not going to put one. I'm just going to remember that before I begin the next row I'm going to reduce here these last 2 stitches. So let's start these next rows. So pull your needle and we're going to knit 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, the 2 stitches before the stitch marker, we're always going to knit 2 together. So insert the needle like this and then knit 2 together. Now pass your stitch marker and then knit 10 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now knit the next 2 together. Pass your stitch marker to the side and then turn and then push your wire and then pull the needle from the back. And then we're going to repeat the same thing. You're going to knit 10 and then reduce the 2 stitches here before the stitch marker and then finish with the same thing. I will meet you at the end of this first row reduction right about here to show you how we're going to finish this first row. Okay, I'm here at the end of this first row reduction. These are my last 2 stitches. I've already knit 10. So same thing, we're going to knit 2 together. Here at the end, I don't have a stitch marker. You're just going to have to remember that at the end of the row, you're going to knit 2 together. Now I'm going to put a stitch marker here so that I know that this is the beginning of my row of reductions. So you can do the same. It's up to you. Now what we're going to do for the second row is the same thing. We're going to knit up to these last 2 stitches before the stitch marker. And I forgot to tell you that for this first row, you should have 44 stitches because we reduced 4. Now, let's see. I think we're going to knit 9. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, we have 2 stitches before the stitch marker, knit 2 together, and then again pass your stitch marker and then knit 9 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then knit 2 together. And this is all we're going to do from here on. Turn, drop your needle and turn. Now pull this needle, add a stitch marker. Mine just fell, so I'm just going to add one here. Now you're just going to continue and repeat the same thing. You're going to knit up to the last 2 stitches and then knit 2 together. I'm going to do this until I have, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 stitches left on each one of these sections to show you how we're going to close the hat. Okay, I have a total of 8 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now I'm going to take off my stitch markers because what we're going to do here is we're going to close the top of the hat. We're not going to do anything else with these needles or stitch markers, so what we're going to do here is I've cut my yarn, so just pass your yarn through this needle, and we're going to weave it here, beginning into this first stitch. This is my last stitch, so just insert your needle like this and through the next one. On the next one. And then we're going to remove our needle, but make sure that you hold these 4 stitches here. Make sure you don't lose them. So pull your needle and insert this needle through this one, through the next one, and the next one, and the last one. Perfect. Now just pull this like this, and this should automatically close here. Perfect. That's what it looks like. So I'm just going to insert this yarn through the middle there. We're going to weave our ends. You can do this after. I'm going to do it afterwards, but you're just going to weave it here all around so that it's nice and secure. Just want to show you what it looks like from the top. There it is. That's what it looks like from the top. So here's the finished hat. This is what it looks like. Now I've already hid my ends, and there it is. Now I'm going to try this little hat on my little dolls that I have. I have a baby doll. Her head circumference is about 13 inches, which is about 33 centimeters, and I'd say that would be for a newborn. So let's see how it fits on her. Okay, so this is my baby doll. Now let's try it on. So you can see it's long, but if you fold it up a little, it still fits. It fits nice. You're just going to have to fold it, and it doesn't look too bad. So you can put this on, say, a newborn baby with a head circumference of about 13 inch. Now let's try it on my other baby doll. Now her head circumference is about 15 inches or 38 centimeters, which is for a baby between 3 and 6 months. So let's try it on her. Now I think it fits perfect on her. That's what it looks like. If you think it's a tad bit too long, then maybe do 1 row less or 2 and then start to reduce. But I think that this little hat is perfect for babies from 0 to 6 months. So there it is. I love the way that this little hat turned out, and it's so easy to make. Okay, so I hope you like this tutorial. I'm going to try to do the same little hat but in a bigger size so that I can show you, and perhaps maybe I'll do it you know, in rows rather than using circular needles, so that way people that don't know how to use circular needles, or maybe they don't have them or don't know how to use the magic loop, can also make it. The only thing with working the little hat in rows is that we're going to have to sew a seam, so we'll see how that works out. Okay, so this has been today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.